Be honest with me for a second. How many hours of English have you listened to this month just playing quietly while you cooked dinner, cleaned your room, or scrolled through your phone? Be honest. Add it all up. Now answer this second question. How many English sentences from those hours can you actually remember? Not understand again if you heard them. Actually remember, right now, off the top of your head. For most people, the first number is huge, dozens of hours, and the second number is almost zero. This isn't bad luck, and it isn't because your memory's broken. It's because you've been practicing the wrong kind of listening this entire time, and nobody ever told you there were two completely different kinds. My name is Emma, and this is Train Your English Brain. I want to tell you about a man named Carlos because his story is the clearest example of this problem I have ever seen. Carlos worked from home. Every single day, for almost a year, he played English podcasts in the background while he worked, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. By his own math, he had listened to well over 1,000 hours of English in 12 months. He came to me proud of this number, expecting me to be impressed, and honestly, the dedication was impressive. But when I asked him to have a simple, slow conversation with me in English, something strange happened. He understood almost nothing I said unless I spoke very slowly and very simply. After 1,000 hours, his listening skill barely matched someone who had studied for 3 months with real focus. Carlos was confused and a little hurt. He said, "Emma, I don't understand. I listen to more English than almost anyone I know." He was right. He had listened to more English than almost anyone. But listening to English and training your brain with English turned out to be two very different things. Here's what was actually happening during all those 1,000 hours. When English played in the background while Carlos worked, his brain treated it exactly the way it treats any background noise, like traffic outside a window or music in a coffee shop. Your brain is incredibly good at learning to ignore sounds that aren't currently demanding your attention. This isn't a flaw, it's actually a survival skill. If your brain paid full attention to every single sound around you all day, you would be exhausted and unable to focus on anything. So when Carlos was deep in a work task, his brain quietly decided the podcast wasn't important right now and tuned it down to the same level as background traffic. The sound entered his ears. It simply never entered the part of his brain responsible for learning language. This is called passive listening, and it has a very specific, limited purpose. It can slowly help your ear get used to the general rhythm and sound of English over a very long time, but it does almost nothing for building real comprehension, real vocabulary, or real listening skill, because your brain was never actually trying to understand it in the first place. Now, compare this to what scientists call active listening, and you'll immediately see why the difference matters so much. Active listening means your full attention is on the English, and only the English, for that period of time. You're not doing two things at once. Your brain isn't choosing between focusing on your work and noticing the podcast. There is only one thing happening, and your brain is forced to actually process every sentence as it arrives, trying to understand, sometimes struggling, sometimes succeeding. This struggle is not a bad sign. It is actually the entire point. When your brain has to work to understand something, slightly uncomfortable, slightly challenging, that effort is exactly what builds new connections and new skill. Passive background listening removes the struggle completely, which feels easier in the moment, but accidentally removes almost all of the learning along with it. 10 minutes of active listening where you sit, focus, and truly try to understand every single sentence you hear will build more real listening skill than 10 hours of passive background noise. This isn't an exaggeration, it's simply how attention and memory actually work together. I want to be clear about something because I don't want you to feel like all those hours of background English were wasted. Passive listening still has value. It can help your ear quietly get used to the general rhythm, speed, and music of English over time, almost like familiarizing yourself with a song before you ever try to sing it. This is a real small benefit, and there's nothing wrong with playing English in the background sometimes for this reason alone. But the mistake almost everyone makes, the mistake Carlos made for an entire year, is believing passive listening alone is enough to build real comprehension. It isn't. It was never designed to be. And if active listening never enters your routine at all, that ear training stays permanently shallow, no matter how many thousands of hours pass. So here's exactly what I want you to change starting today. First, separate these two types of listening completely in your mind. Background listening while you work or clean is fine, but understand clearly that it's for ambiance and rhythm, not real learning. Don't count those hours as study time because your brain is certainly not counting them that way either. Second, set aside a small block of time, even just 10 minutes, where English is the only thing happening. No multitasking, no background activity, just you sitting, fully focused, actively trying to understand every single sentence you hear. Third, when you miss something during active listening, don't let it pass by. Pause, go back, listen again. This small habit of returning to confusing moments rather than letting them slide past you is exactly what separates real listening practice from passive noise. Carlos changed his approach after we talked. He kept his background podcasts because he genuinely enjoyed them, but he added something new, just 15 minutes every evening of pure, focused, active listening. No phone, no multitasking, just him and one short audio clip, replayed as many times as needed until he understood it completely. 3 months later, his comprehension had improved more than it had during his entire previous 1,000 hours combined. Not because he listened more, because he finally listened with his whole brain instead of just his ears. 10 focused minutes today will do more for you than another lost hour in the background. Choose the 10 minutes. My name is Emma. I will see you in the next episode.